Okay, tackling one of the few lesser-known reality shows that I can still talk about, we're going to be discussing the Schmo show today. And I'm going to be describing some spoilers for all these seasons, so if you want to try and watch this, do it at your own risk, okay? Just warning you there, but I think most people will have seen the seasons or know what goes on, right? So, premise of the show, for those of you who don't know, is that it's pretty much what the naysayers say about reality TV, where the show's completely rigged, everyone's an actor, producers know who they want to see win, change things on a whim, basically if they feel like it, and throw in some pretty odd twists that kind of disrupt the flow of the show. But there's one part where what the naysayers say doesn't hold up. It's because the person that the producers actually want to see win thinks that the show is completely legit. And that's half the idea of this show, just to see if the person, will ever figure it out. And the other half being, can the actors, keep up their characters enough to fool the person that thinks it's all real. Now I know what you're thinking. How can they keep doing multiple seasons of this? Well, it's because they spoof different types of reality shows. Your typical elimination reality show format, your typical dating show, Bachelor, Bachelorette, and then taking it to the current generation of reality shows, so to speak. Can't really describe it much more than that, to be honest. Right. So, moving on to the first season of the Schmo show, and when it says uncensored, all that means is that you hear the swearing, actually. Nudity is still blurred, even though there's not too much of it. So what did I think about it? I really enjoyed the show. There was a good amount of humor in there, and even though there was Will Ferrell, it worked fairly well, I think. All the actors in here did a pretty good job, of performing their characters and forming the Schmo, because, yeah, there were tons of moments in here where you're like, okay, what's Matt going to do there? And, ooh, yeah, but you can definitely tell that this was made a long time ago, back in 2003, because all the actors, they play comic book cutout characters, because you've got the a-hole guy, you've got the girl who's a virgin, you've got the girl who's a bitch, you've got the very feminine gay guy who's easy to spot, because I've never really gotten how you can spot people who are gay unless you're really, really looking for it, just really. Right, you can tell that it's produced a while back, and I do kind of feel sorry for Jerry Manfey in here, because she makes a cameo appearance, so they have her play a bit of a bitch role, which is how many people classified her after the Australian outback, but now you look back and go, what are we complaining about? Sheesh, yeah. And, yeah, it was a pretty good show. I enjoyed myself with it, and Matt, yeah. Great guy to watch, even though he is definitely kind of an awkward guy, but once he gets a spark, he's doing stuff, and all the bits that production had to do, to compensate for what he deviated from the plan, pretty interesting. I really liked how they were able to change things up. Yeah, that was real interesting, but there were a couple of twists that they had in that season that didn't really work well in my mind, because twist number one, having the bribe scene, really? Like, how many reality shows are known to do that besides The Mole? Okay, besides The Mole. I mean, like, I'm sure you could come up with a couple of examples, but I can't really think of anything else based on what I've seen where bribery to leave during an elimination or a recurring theme. I don't know. And then there was also the double trouble rounds where they have two people win immunity and two people booted. But the problem was when they booted the two people, they only had one voting, so it was the two people who got the highest number of votes that were booted. Really? You shouldn't have done that. You should have had two separate votes. Just... Huh? Come on. Seriously, now I have no problem with what they did for the last vote, having it be a surprise, no one gets immunity, that I'm okay with, but just stick with a reasonable format, okay? I know that they're spoofing the Survivor elimination style just in the Big Brother situation, but just, come on. I really don't like it when, reality shows, change the flow, even though, as I stated, changing the flow is like how the show behaves, right? I just am not a fan of that. I just can't turn off the critical part of my brain sometimes, even though usually I am pretty good at turning my brain off. Really, I am. Okay. Second season of this show, which I think I mentioned spoofs The Bachelor and Bachelorette, I enjoyed it, and I do appreciate it for what it is, but I think after a long battle in my go-away battery thingy, I do prefer the first season to this, in my opinion. Because, well, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Well, the idea of are they going to figure it out or not, that's really put down a lot in my mind. Many people will still see a lot of that, and it is mentioned often enough, but I felt like the question of will they figure it out was much more on our minds here than in there. And also because the rules are a little less comic book cut. I think the bad stuff that the characters did really stands with me a little bit more, even though the actors, they were actually able to gel with each other a lot better, I think, than they did in the first one. They were able to set up more elaborate scenes, and I do applaud all the hard work that they were able to do. I really do. But just not a fan of the bad stuff here. It just affected me a little bit different. And then the twists that they had in this season. Well, season 1, it really only had 2 instances that were bad, and one of them not really being a big deal in my mind, so I can get past that. But here, they kept just doing the bits where people get removed from the show, but they're getting brought back for odd reasons, but they made it redundant by doing it again and again and again. Now, in the first season, there was a little bit of justification for it, in my opinion. Yeah, and even though it did work with the story well in here, just the amount of times that they did it, it got overdone, in my opinion. Yeah, and it's just like with Big Brother, they need to give the twist a rest, because first time was actually very good, second time, really not much justification for it, even though it does work for the story, but the third one was just completely ridiculous, and one, how they got rid of that contestant, and then the reasoning for bringing them back, just overkill, just by that point, yeah. Just not a fan of that, yeah. But as I said, I don't hate this, it's just that the dislikes for it stand out in my mind pretty well, because I do appreciate the actors here. They were very good at coming up with challenges. I was chuckling a good amount of times, and it did give me a bit of a desire to check out like a cycle of The Bachelor/Bachelorette. And one thing to people out there who do watch those shows, if any, don't you think it's a little bit odd that they were able to find a guy, for like pretty much every season of The Bachelor, but usually they recycle one high-performing contestant from The Bachelor to be on The Bachelorette? I don't know. I don't know. There's something about that makes me go, But I guess they have the reasons for that. I don't know. I'm not too well educated on that show. I haven't watched a second of it, so maybe I'm just talking out of my butt. I don't know. Could be. And then the third season, which you actually can't get on DVD, which I find unfortunate because I think it'd make a nice addition. I enjoyed it. You could definitely tell that it's the next generation of reality TV based on the feel of the show, which is why they're probably able to do it again, because the Schmo here, Chase, he multiple times states, okay, people on reality shows, I think they do this, I'm going to try and do like this kind of behavior. So you get the idea that he expects a few more things than the Schmoes in the past. And also, the actors here, even though they do have their own personality and roles, you could get the idea that they could potentially, have shifted at any point. You could see them acting other roles than the ones that they are. Really, you can, because, like, the dick guy, that could have been anything. The over-competitive woman, or the woman that has, like, no right to be there, that could have been any of the women, really. It could have been. So, Yeah, and it was also nice to see the supporting actors in here actually get a more prominent role in the story, because like um, in the first two seasons there's really only one supporting character, Ralph, as the host, but here there were a couple of others, so that added a nice twist to it. Although, like with the first one, they have a couple of twists that were unnecessary in my mind, and also, even though this isn't a true dislike, how they kept showing production, trying to change things or needing to change things, even though it was nice to hear their input, and it did get me on my toes going, okay, how are they going to react? I'll admit, they did it, kind of too often, I guess. I don't know, because it's not a true dislike, but it's not a true like. It's odd. I don't know how to feel about that. But did I enjoy it? Yeah, I cracked up in quite a few moments. I thought that the challenges were very creative. It did feel, kind of cliche, but in a way that did make me laugh, and what the Schmo was doing on here, that was interesting. Actors had to behave a little bit differently dealing with his antics, yeah. And then, that reveal, I think that was the most emotional that I got out of all three of them, to be honest. I'm not trying to say that that's exactly my favorite, because I think my favorite is still this one. What is going on? But I definitely felt, the most proud for Chase when I saw this particular reveal scene. It was just a great way to end it. Although I do find it a bit of a bummer, that we can't hear from, the actors too much. Maybe I just need to do some searching around, I don't know, but, yeah. So that pretty much sums up my thoughts on this show. I might have not exactly been the greatest in this video, but I did want to talk about it, and I think I did a decent enough job. See ya.